like to call the meeting to order. It is now 11:01 a.m. on July the 28th for the Apportionment Commission, first meeting of the Apportionment Commission. I'd like to take the roll. Please respond by saying here or present. Anthony Forlini, Macomb County Clerk, here. Larry Rock, Macomb County Treasurer, here. Peter Lucido, Prosecutor, Macomb County Prosecutor, here. Ed Burley, Macomb County Democratic Party Chair.
Present.
And Mark Fort, Macomb County Republican Chair. Here. Thank you. I'd like to move to the adoption of the agenda. Before we adopt the agenda, however, the treasurer had asked me to make a simple correction to the agenda to replace item 14 that states old business and just replace it with the word unfinished business. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda with this change.
Move to adopt, Mr. Chairman.
Support?
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay? Motion passes. I'd like to move to public participation. Members of the public may speak for 3 minutes on any of the agenda items. If you wish to speak, please come up to the podium and state your name. Sounds like we don't have anybody out there. All right. Moving to item 5, election of the officers. According to the charter, we need a nomination for chairman and also for a secretary. Would somebody like to make the nomination for chairperson?
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
I so move at this time to nominate as the chairperson of this Apportionment Commission, Anthony Forlini, our clerk. Second.
Any other nominations for chairperson? Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any against? Thank you. Thank you, Board. Up next is the election of secretary. Would someone like to make the nomination for secretary?
I'd like to nominate Larry Rocca for secretary.
I'd second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
You accept? Just
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I accept.
All in favor of having Treasurer Rocca serve as secretary, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any against? Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the adoption of the rules and procedures. Robert's Rules of Order are generally accepted as a set of rules at a public meeting. Would someone like to take a motion to adopt the Robert's Rules of Orders for our meeting?
Move to adopt the Robert's Rules of Order for the meeting.
I'll second.
Motion made by Treasurer Rocca, supported by Mark Fortin. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any against? Thank you, Board. Item 7 on the agenda is to receive and file the applicable sections of the Macomb County Charter regarding apportionment. These are the guidelines on which the county commissioner boundaries should be drawn. Would someone like to make a motion to receive and file these charter sections?
Mr. Chairman, I have a discussion issue on item number.
Let's get a motion to receive and file, and we'll get to the discussion.
Move to receive and file.
I'll
Any
second.
support?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Discussion, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
Section, Article 4 of Section 4.1 really deals with the county who has 1 million people or more. So I think what we need to do is first look at the census and see whether or not the census, because it pertains to the Board of Commissioners, and also the county doesn't even have 1 million people pursuant to the old census.
We have in the audience Corporate Counsel Frank Risha. Would you like to address that, Frank?
Yes.
If you can hit the speaker too. And whoever is not speaking, if you can shut up your mics.
Okay, is that on now?
Go ahead.
This is the Macomb County Charter, 4.1. It applies to Macomb County. It doesn't apply to any other county. So that's the rule in Macomb County pursuant to the charter, which was approved by the governor and adopted by the people at a vote, I think, in 2010.
Mr. Chairman? if there's a conflict between statute and the charter, how do we go ahead and discern the two?
The charter, the whole purpose of the charter was to create different law for Macomb County. So it doesn't conflict. The law allows us to create a charter, to create our own rules. And when the Charter Commission approved these, it created rules for Macomb County. So these rules apply to Macomb County. The statute does not. In some instances, a statute would conflict. In this instance, no. It's a matter of procedure for the county. The courts have ruled that procedural matters can be changed in a charter. And like I said, why would we have a charter if we're just following the statute? So the whole purpose of the charter is to create different rules for Macomb County, and this rule applies to Macomb County.
Prosecutor Lucido?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate your diligence. And I didn't participate in writing the charter. I know that Mr. Macomb was a heavy hitter in that participation. I just want to make sure if there is a conflict between statutory law and the charter, because this is brand new regarding the procedures, if you will, that we're looking under in this, I want to make sure that we're fully aware of the million people that this would pertain to under statute, and we don't have a million in Macomb. So if you're going to accept and receive, Mr. Chairman, the fact that the charter may dictate when it doesn't conflict with statutory law, I'll remove my discretionary purpose.
Again, this provision of the charter was used in 2011 to appoint the current commission districts. The governor approved it, the attorney general approved it, and it was approved by the voters. So it is the law. It does apply to Macomb County, and we do not use the statute anymore unless there's a provision that isn't covered by the charter, we would use the charter.
And in our agenda package, notice of special meeting, second page, section 4.1, commission, deals with the Macomb County Board of Commissioners. And that, under the charter, was what they were talking about.
That's correct. The commission creates 13, one of the reasons for the charter was to change the number, reduce the number of commissioners.
Correct.
If I remember correctly. And that's what the Charter Commission agreed to. So we have 13 commissioners in Macomb County because we have a valid charter that calls for 13 commissioners. And the statute does not apply to that. That's a provision that's allowed by law for charter counties, and that's what the Charter Commission chose to do.
Mr. Chairman, then for discretionary purposes, if he's indicating the charter is going to not have any conflict with statute,
On this issue.
we'll limit it at this point.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, then I'd like to, all those in favor of receiving and file the charter sections, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any against?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is a presentation from the Director of Planning and Economic Development, Vicki Rowinski, regarding the 2020 census data and the role of planning in the plan review process. Vicki, it's all yours.
Thank you, Anthony. Being with the county for 8 years, I was not initially part of this 10 or 9 years ago. However, we're in a very much in a different place with the technology that we have within planning and economic development. So I want to talk a little bit about our roles and responsibilities as we endure on this effort. You know, our department really does take a look at the data component. You know, we utilize geographical information systems, which is GIS, to help really look at the districts as well as the boundaries. We also have other tools available to us, looking at some of the demographic data. You know, from our perspective, and I had a conversation with Anthony Berlini earlier today, that census data, you know, getting that data into the hands of everyone so that we can review the plans is going to be pretty critical. But the turnaround time here is going to be pretty quick. The Planning and Economic Development Department, we do request at least 2 weeks for us to parse out that data and look at the plans that are submitted in order to get feedback back to this committee within an appropriate timeline. So it's gonna be really important that we pay attention to the clock, pay attention to the calendar, that we execute on deadlines, and that we are at least given the 2 weeks to be able to parse data, take a look at the plans, and then come back and provide a review and recommendation back to this committee. You know, also from our perspective, we wanna make sure that this is a very fair process. As we're reviewing the plans, really taking a nonpartisan, apolitical perspective. Having that data in front of us is gonna be important so that we can be able to provide those recommendations back to this committee. And then one other note, we don't anticipate any additional costs. We do currently have licenses for the technology, our GIS subscription, as well as resources on staff that will be dedicated to this.
Does anyone have any questions?
Mr. Chairman? Yes, Vicki, when can we, expect the census data?
We're hearing August, I think August 30th was the date that was thrown out there.
August 3rd?
Let me just, if I can step in, I
Sure.
passed everybody, something I pulled off the census data just about an hour ago. And it talks about August, the 16th, that they expect to have it by preliminary numbers, I guess. I don't know what that means, but on their website, they tend to talk like this is being sent to us so that we can start formulating what we need to do, but they're not gonna get the software and other things that might be necessary for deciphering the numbers until the end of September, at the latest. So I don't know what that means. I'm not sure if it means that we're gonna talk about this a little bit later in the agenda, whether or not we're gonna be able to have a meeting, maybe the end of August, if we have these numbers. My original thought was we weren't gonna get these until September the 30th, in which case we were gonna put off our next meeting until then. But if we have enough information based on what they send us, we may move that date up maybe to the end of August for us to meet.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
In the event that we do receive the numbers within these important dates that we've been handed, specifically August 16th, how long would Vicki need, as to Mr. Rocca's question, to cycle this through the geo information system?
Yes, when we look at the date, right, the dates are gonna be important. Actually, there's gonna be a final date 60 days after the census data is released, so we gotta work back from that specific date. There's gonna be a time when this committee says all plans need to be submitted by X, Y, Z, whatever date that is. We will need 2 weeks from that date in order to get the review and the recommendations back to this committee. So it just needs to be built within that timeline.
I've got a question for corporate counsel on this. Is the date that they're giving us no less than 30 days, no more than 60 days to come up with a plan? When does that start? Does that start as of if they give it to us on the 16th of August, or does it start at the end of September?
I believe that starts after the 30 days after the latest official published census figures are available and any extension granted by the Court of Appeals. Generally, it's on the date that we get certified results from the census, so.
And would that be September 30th then?
Again, the way they described it on their website, it's hard to say. It sounds like the results that they're gonna give on August 16th will be, what they're talking about is on September 30th, they're gonna add computer capabilities to people that don't already have them to interpret the data. So it's hard to say what they're gonna do. We have to wait and see what we get on, what will they say, by August 16th, see what numbers we got. So it'd probably be a good idea to review shortly after we get those numbers.
The preliminary numbers?
Yeah, they
August
might not be
16th.
preliminary, there may be the final numbers, just subject to additional capabilities for interpretation by September 30th, so. That's what they say here, it says, they will distribute the final redistricting data toolkit to all state and public officials by September 30th. That's what they say on their website. They don't talk about certified data. What happens is the data goes to the state, I understand, and the state tells us this is good, go with it.
So that'll be sometime after the 16th.
Yes.
Any other questions? Any other questions for Vicki? All right, thank you.
Thanks, Vicki.
Thanks, Vicki. Now move on to item 9 of the agenda is to receive and file the request for authorization to review information regarding activities of the Macomb County Apportionment Commission form. And you all had that in your board packet. I did have a, well, let's, I need a motion to receive and file.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? I think Commissioner Bruley had a few questions beforehand and some thoughts.
Yeah, there was just one, and that had to deal with making it more that these freedom of information requests go to the chair, and then the chair directs their acknowledgement and response, as opposed to what could be interpreted as the chair answering or not. So I just think we need to, I submitted a couple words to the chair. Chair has those.
So-
I would move that at this point.
So it's the third bullet point down on your form, and it says information request by an individual member of the MCAC or any other person will be made through and must be authorized by the chairperson of the MCAC. Mr. Worley had asked that we just do a slight revision and say any other person will be made through the chairperson of the MCAC to direct the response. So that would be the change in verbiage.
Mr. Chairman, was that a motion, Mr. Bruley?
Yes.
I second it.
I'm sorry, I should. Well, we already did the receipt. So this is a motion to do it that way and seconded. I just want to make sure I read this so that everyone knew what the changes were. All those in favor of the changes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any against? All right, thank you. Item 10 on the agenda is to receive and file the format of information required for the apportionment plan submitted. This outlines what information is required for any proposed plans upon submission. This was also a form that was used back in 2010. Would someone like to make a motion to receive and file this information?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Commissioner Rocca. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any against? Motion passes. Item 11 on the agenda is to receive and file the plan review procedure. This outlines the procedures by which the potential plans were reviewed. This was also used back in 2010. Would someone like to make a motion to receive and file this information? So moved.
Second.
Second by. Oh, I'm sorry.
I think it's better if we just leave them all on.
I might, okay, well, mine I probably should keep on that way, keep it going. Any discussion on the plan review procedure for Macomb County Apportionment Commission?
Is
Yes.
this the last page with question number 7?
Yes, you had a question regarding
Yeah.
question 7.
Here again, it was just sort of cleaning up the language a little bit from what was previously used to say that the plans are going to be submitted to the planning economic group for verification. And so we would just put the Macomb County Department of Planning and Economic Development will verify plans, period.
Proposed plans.
Yeah, proposed plans, period.
So just striking only those from it. So verify, striking only those, and so verify proposed plans is authorized by the Macomb County Apportionment Commission through the chairperson. Okay. Any other discussion? Treasurer Rocca?
What was the change, Mr. Chairman?
We're striking, really, we're only striking the words only those.
Only those?
that, so that all plans submitted will go through the process.
Okay,
So we're just striking the word only,
only those.
Only those.
only those. Okay.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the changes and a motion to receive and file this form, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any against? Motion passes, thank you. Next item on the agenda is the budget discussion. I shared with you an email from Finance Director Steve Smeagol that I got this morning. He went back 3 years and didn't see any reason to have a budget item. I spoke with Vicki on this also. She doesn't foresee any issues, certainly not from the planning department itself. But if there's software that needs to be bought or something unusual that we're not anticipating, they're gonna need to pass those costs on to but at this point, we don't foresee that, and I'm not sure that we need to pass a budget item. But I'll leave that up to discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I agree. At this point here, they have 18 years of history or data that they didn't need it. And moving forward, unless there's something that Vicki shares with us that says, we need to get an upgrade of this, or we need to do this, then we bring it before the board and advance it at that time.
Any other discussion? So I guess at this point, we don't need to make any kind of motion. There's nothing to be made. Next item on the agenda is a tentative future meeting schedule. It appears as if we're probably gonna need 3 other meetings. One is to receive the census data. And number, at meeting 3, we decide which plans we get reviewed by planning. Of course, we've decided that now that whatever plans we get, we're gonna pass on. And then the last meeting would be to adopt a plan, vote to adopt a plan.
I would like to make a motion that we reconvene at the call of the chair, that, since we don't know the dates that are gonna happen, it'd be hard to plan, and that we just reconvene at the call of the chair when it's appropriate.
I second that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, motion by Mr. Bruley, seconded by Prosecutor Lucido. Any other discussion? I just might wanna add that I would probably look at the end of August, if those numbers play out on the 16th, that we might wanna prepare ourselves to be ready at that point. But we don't know that yet.
I would just, the way that language is, I would think those are gonna be very preliminary numbers that they're gonna release, and they may not go down to the depth that we need in this process, and so that we should be prepared for both cases.
Yeah.
That they won't be, and that they would.
Very good.
Okay. All in favor of the motion to just, you were saying just to wait for the chair to call the next meeting?
That's the motion to reconvene at the call of the chair.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any against? Thank you, board. Next item is unfinished business. I don't know if we have any unfinished business. Okay. No unfinished business. Commissioners will move on to public participation if there is any. I don't see anybody on there.
New business first.
Oh, I'm sorry, new business. I skipped right over. Thank you, Treasurer. Any new business? Hearing no new business. Move on to public participation. Again, members of the public may speak for 3 minutes on, I believe, any topic. If you wish to speak, please come up to the podium. No? From the prosecutor's office, my office, no, treasurer's office, okay.
May I suggest giving them 3 minutes to decide
No.
if they wanna speak?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Make up your mind. Okay. Last item is adjournment. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Prosecutor Lucido, support by Treasurer Rocca. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any against? We're adjourned. Thanks.
Excellent meeting,
Thanks,
Mr.
guys.
Chairman. Excellent.
Well, you guys made it easy.
If